Ladies and gentlemen, brand new rolling heritage video, and yeah, we're gonna continue on that thing. And that thing is for this thing. So this is a 1973 Volvo P1800ES, so the station wagon. So we are actually swapping this car from a 3-speed to a 4-speed automatic. And this thing is not plug and play. So in the last video we have done a lot of work, which is mostly custom. So over here we have the gearbox, and this thing is running a TinusTuning adapter ring. So this is an adapter plate where your Bellhousing bolts up to, it turns a bit to the left, and then it mounts up to the gearbox. We have made a brand new gearbox mount, and I've got some comments about people telling me, hey, you need to make some cross bracing or something to stop making it flop around, but this thing is so strong I can even stand on it. So as you can see, this is pretty freaking thick steel. Then we have the lengthened and adjusted linkage, which is going on your shifter, because we have made it work that we can use the original P1800 shift lever to actually shift this car in gear. P, R, N, D, 2, 1. And we can actually shift into each and every gear of the AW70 and make that gearbox work into that car. Guys, I had to actually pause the time lapse because what I have found is not very good. So I took the oil pan off. This is not what you want to see. That's a magnet. This is a magnet. Look at that. Look at this line. Look at that. This is all just metal. This is the spot which was probably right where the magnet was. Look at this. That's just metal. So guys, I've called the owner, or actually he called me as soon as I sent him a picture of the oil pan insides, and I am actually waiting on another customer from the red Volvo 245, which I have automatic swapped from manual, and he might have one of these gearboxes laying around. So I'm gonna wait for that. While we are waiting for an answer of the customer that might have another gearbox, we can attack all the parts that we've made in the previous video. So as you can see, I am grinding away all the rough edges. I am going to clean up every single bit of metal work that we have welded, made, bended and go on. Then, as a final step, I throw it into my sandblasting cabinet to give it all a very nice and clean texture. This will help all the parts to get that nice clean finish when we have painted them. When the sandblasting is done, you can clearly see that there is very nice texture on all the parts. They are now 100% ready for paint, and then they can go back onto the car. So the filler neck, the gearshift linkages, everything is looking great. A full kit to get this AW70 in this P1800ES. So the first step is throw on some red anti-rust primer. This will prevent every single bit of metal from rusting ever again. And when that red primer is on there, we can finish it off with some black semi-gloss paint. And I finished that paint off with some very nice 3 layers of clear coat. So guys, brand new day, and I have something very exciting because I have a different gearbox. So sometimes you have to make a choice, and I want my customers to have a properly working car. So when I have a gearbox, which I have used for test fitting and stuff, and when I take off the oil pan and we see stuff like this, which is just 100% metal shavings and crap and yeah, stuff you don't want. of course we talk about all this stuff with the customers, but this was also like my call, like, hey, I'm not even gonna put this gearbox in the car like in any possible way, because I don't want you to be broken down in the side of the road while actually paying a lot of money to, yeah, have me make the kit. So I bought that gearbox behind me, and that gearbox came actually from a customer, which car also was in a video of mine. Then over here we have painted parts. So this is the gearbox mount bracket. Then over here we have a very nice filler pipe, so the oil filler neck pipe, and that is missing a clamp, but we are gonna take that clamp and we're gonna drill out these little two spot welds, like rivets. We're gonna get those out. We're gonna get that little clip onto this oil pipe, and then it is black, not silver, but that doesn't matter. So we're gonna make this gearbox into this gearbox. We're gonna change out the Bellhousing again, and some other stuff. So let's just get into it. It's a lot of work to get this thing ready. So I am gonna put some cameras up. I'm gonna try to get some like best angles for you guys, and I'm just gonna rush getting this thing ready. Like not rush, like actually rush it, but I mean in the video. So let's get going and let's get this thing ready today, because I really would like to have that gearbox into that car. So I was very lucky that I was able to find a new gearbox for this car. There are so many types of AW70s and AW71s which I didn't knew before I started. So I knew about the AW70, about the AW71, the later type, and there's also an AW72. The thing I didn't know when I started this project is that you also have the AW70 and AW71L gearboxes, and the L stands for lockup. The gearbox itself is completely different on the inside, because there is a lockup function in this gearbox which actually locks up a part of the transmission to give you higher, lower, better ratios of gears and stuff. And it's just an option in your gearbox. As you can see in this time lapse, I have worked like crazy to get this thing all ready, all cleaned up. New input shaft seal, new output shaft seal, new gearbox mounts, gaskets, oil pans. Everything was clean, everything was gorgeous and ready to go into the car. And right at the last moment, when I was ready to put this thing into the car, I found out that I had bought the L gearbox, not the AW70 or AW71, but I have bought an AW70L with that lockup function, and that means that I cannot use this gearbox. But you will find that out later in the video, so definitely keep watching. So guys, one ready to go gearbox. So we have a new main seal over here in the front. This is the old one, got a bit butchered up while taking it out. We have a new one in the back over there. We have a new gasket over there. We have a very nice and clean oil pan. And yeah, the gearbox itself is still black and dirty, but I'm not gonna do anything about that. That's something we can do when it's done in like a wash box or something. Just get a pressure washer on it a bit. But this thing won't be seen anyway. So we're just gonna throw it in the car like this. So the only thing we have left to do right now to actually get this gearbox in here is remove this flex plate. This is what you call a flex plate. This is a plate where that donut piece will be connected to, that little like oil pump thing. So we're gonna take off all these bolts. We're gonna mark this spot with the top, and we're gonna take off this thing, and behind here is the main crankshaft oil seal. And we're gonna replace that seal, and when that seal is replaced, we should have way less oil leaks than we have right now. And when that is replaced, we can then put back this whole flex plate and mount the gearbox up to this engine. There's also a bit of oil on the top, as you can see, but the main reason for that is is almost all the time the valve cover gasket up there. So taking off the crankshaft seal is one of the things that I have done 1,000 times on this channel. Take off your flywheel or flex plate, you drill a very small hole right in the edge of the seal. You can get some pliers on there and then you can just pull the seal straight out of your engine block. So yesterday I have removed the oil pan and that thing is right over here and you might already see it. Those are big chunks. So taking a look in this oil pan, you can see all the big chunks over there, over there, over there, and there are a couple more over there on the bottom. And this oil pan is just completely dirty. So the bad thing is that the temp sensor over there for the oil temp in this car broke off. So I need to find a new temp sensor because this thing is just, yeah, snaps clean off. Over here we have the car and all the bearings feel okay, but there is one bad thing. If you look inside of there, I hope you can see it, but over there you can see the gears of the timing gear and that is missing some teeth. On the left bottom corner you can see some shimmering and those are actually the teeth you see over there. We have a very nice bottom gear, and when we lift all this cardboard, if there will be an end, then we have a very nice and clean aluminum gear. So this will match up like that. This is for the front seal and this is for the front cover. And then I also bought some new front cover bolts because you never know if they will snap. And I also bought a brand new Volvo oil filter because if we're changing the oil pan and cleaning everything, then we might as well do this right away. Getting these timing gears off the engine is not a problem if you have the right tools. So I once made this little puller which you can actually mount up to the original fiber and steel pulleys, because only the original ones will have those two holes, and then you can just twist the center bolt and take the bottom gear off. The top gear is removing the center nut and then you can get a puller on there. I also like to use a little thing which you can use for motorbikes and stuff, but eventually you can just wiggle it off and it will come off without any problems. So if your camshaft has some play, you can also replace that front seal that you see, the brass fitting. But on this engine it wasn't necessary at all. Just a quick cleanup with all the gasket material before we are gonna mount up the new gears, and that will give us a very nice and clean engine block to work with. So then it's time for a simple test fit. And I always do this because there can be some differences in the gears. With this upgrade kit with a steel and aluminum gear, you might need to actually heat it up a bit. So I couldn't even get it on for like 3 millimeters. It was so stuck. So after a very proper inspection, I realized that this crankshaft was just completely butchered. It had so many burrs, it had so many like ridges on there, and you couldn't just get the gear on there. Over here we have the old gear. Yeah, I think I'm gonna clean this thing in the ultrasonic cleaner and just put it in my display case upstairs to show future customers how bad a gear could be. And yes, before you start commenting, I know they can be way worse because this car was still driving, but you got the point. Over here we have a car with a crankshaft that was absolutely butchered. So I really had some trouble getting off the old gear. And I think that's over here. And these old gears have, from the factory, these holes. And they are absolutely amazing. So as you've seen in the previous clip, I can use a bit of a puller. This is amazing. The new type is terrible. Then the other thing is that I started to heat up the new gear. And yes, I'm doing it in an air fryer because we are living in the future and we don't have an oven anymore in the shop. But this thing is that little slot which you use to center the thing. You can also see that this thing is, come on, focus. You can see that this thing is missing a corner and there's a little bit of a hit here where it has been like tapped out of the crankshaft with a chisel or something, I don't know. But what I did is I figured this thing out of the crankshaft, and in the best possible way, of course. And I started to undo all of that damage. That's why it's polished. And you can see how high the edges are and how low the center is with the scratches. This is 600 grit sandpaper, and I have flattened this thing in such a way that this thing can now slide in here. And it's still like a bit like narrow, but you want this thing to be stuck in there, because when it's too loose you will shove your gear on here and you will actually do that and then it pops out. Hot, 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 hot. Oh. Oh my, fuck, that's hot. Ow! The timing gears are done, and now we can finally mount up the timing gear cover. So we are using the brand new bolts that we have bought. We're mounting the timing cover back on the engine and getting it ready for all the pulleys. The oil pan is cleaned up, the oil pump is rebuilt. We're mounting a brand new oil pan gasket with, of course, a very tiny bead of silicone to seal it off properly. And then we get to the best part of this whole thing, because when you mount this oil pan on these engines, you actually need to mount the oil pump while it's in the oil pan. But hey, we can't complain. The oil pan is being mounted up onto the engine, that's done. The front is also mounting up to the engine, and then for the final bit of this whole process, we are mounting up the oil lines for the automatic gearbox. Alright, the gearbox is out of the car again, as you see, because we ran into another problem. So the thing that happened is that torque converter, which is supposed to go inside of this gearbox, doesn't fit. And why? Well, as you can see over here, there's a nice big scratch, and over here is a nice edge. And over here are some nice like bite marks, and that's about it. But that means this torque converter is hitting the actual freaking bell housing. I had the task of finding another gearbox for this car. So I was looking for an AW70 and I thought I had bought one. Eventually it turned out, after I fully serviced the gearbox, fully mounted new gaskets, cleaned the filter, cleaned all the oil seals, replaced all the oil seals for original Volvo seals. So that's around another like 40 to 50 bucks in seals alone. The kit for the filter and stuff was like 60, 70 euros or something. So I have invested in that gearbox, in the new one. And I had made every single bit of video for you guys about that. But eventually it turned out that the box I have bought was an AW70L. And the L stands for lockup. The bad thing is that we didn't even thought about it, that whole thing. I didn't even know it existed, to be honest. So I am a Volvo guy through and through, and I know absolutely everything about the Volvos, but there are some things that I can't know. I'm 27 years old, so yeah, I cannot know the same things that a like 50, 60-year-old Volvo specialist mechanic knows. So over here in the Netherlands, we have like mostly manual cars. So we don't have a lot of automatics, and that's also why the most of the cars that I work on in my shop are manual. The owner of this P1800 bought a gearbox, an AW70. He also bought a torque converter which should go with that gearbox. He got scammed. So the gearbox he bought somewhere in the top of the Netherlands, it was like 2.5 hours driving for him, so that sucked. The gearbox he bought was full of metal. That's the gearbox we're gonna mount in the car today. Don't be scared. The torque converter he got with that gearbox was wrong. That was a BW35 gearbox torque converter. And that is the gearbox that we're actually taking away from the car. So we've had the gearbox all along, but that was full of metal and we had the wrong torque converter. I invested a lot of money in buying a different gearbox from a customer of mine. So that customer showed me the gearbox, he showed me the oil, everything looked great. It was way better inside and I started getting that gearbox ready. That gearbox was a lockup gearbox. So that was an AW70L. It turned out that when that gearbox was done, that's when we found out that the torque converter that we got was like wrong all along. So I contacted the guy where I bought that AW70L from and said, hey, we need the right torque converter. I picked up a lockup torque converter, but because we have an adapter kit for a B20, the L torque converter is way bigger on the outside diameter. It didn't fit in the bell housing. So that's when I realized that this lockup gearbox isn't going in the car at all. So that's why I'm filming today, because today I have actually taken apart the full first gearbox, the AW70 that the customer bought. I have fully stripped that gearbox on like the oil pan, the seals, everything else. I replaced all the seals again. I replaced all the filters, all the gaskets again. Another 100, 150 euros in seals and gasket alone. Replaced that all. And yeah, the customer is not going to pay for the AW70L. He's not going to pay for the torque converter. He's not going to pay for the seals, the gaskets, the hours, anything. So that means that the past 5 days, and it was like that heat dome above Europe was right above my shop, it felt. So it was like 35 degrees in here. So the full week that I have worked on this car, like this week, won't be paid. It's all free for the customer because this is a mistake that I didn't know. I made it without even knowing, and we are now back to square one. So I have fully serviced this gearbox. I am gonna put this gearbox in the car right now. So just be clear, an AW70 or 71 lockup gearbox will not fit a P1800 gearbox swap. It won't fit.
Headed out at dawn. Ain't no place gonna hold me when the road keeps rolling on. Woo! Left my baby crying, said she can't live that way. Told her love ain't chained down, it just comes and drifts away. Yeah. Woo. Saw the sun in the distance look like a burning coin. Saw the sun in the distance look like a burning coin.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a drive shaft, we have a gearbox, we have an oil filler pipe, we have new engine oil, new ATF, new coolant, and new everything. There are some things to button up, as you can see, because we don't want this to hang that low. And I also had a small leak, well, I still have a small leak over there, and I don't really know why, but it's actually a pretty big leak. So we have to see what that causes, but I'm not really sure if it's the gasket or the coupling, and I think it's the coupling, but that will be even worse. So yeah, I don't know. That's something I'm gonna figure out first. 9 o'clock in the evening, we're gonna start this thing for the first time in like a month. And I've done the timing, I've done an oil change, I have done oil filters, I have done so much stuff. But yeah, this thing needs to fire up and it needs to drive. So I'm already happy when it just goes into drive and into some gears. Then I'm happy, and the rest of the whole story will be figured out next week. I'm too big for this car. Everything works. And back into park. All right. All right. Ah. Fuck yeah. Oh, I needed that. Oh, guys. So we finally did it. It was a terrible, terrible, terrible 2 weeks. We have had, I think, 3 or 4 gearboxes in here. 1, 2, 3, 4 torque converters, bell housings, gasket kits, sealing rings. We have done this thing, this timing gear. Like, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so super happy, and I can finally go to sleep peacefully that this car is actually moving or like doing something. The engine fires up, it sounds like a sewing machine. It is a little bit high in RPM, but that's also something we gotta attack for the customer later on. And yeah, you see it right here. Subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's Mr. Well to me. See you guys next time. Bye bye.